All right, we are, I don't know, 2 miles in, a couple miles in to a short but pretty climbing hike. We are doing it overnight on Mount Cube. It's like a little over 2,000 feet of gain in 3.5 miles. So forgive my panting. We're clearly at one of the flat parts. But we are out here in the rain. We drove up in a storm, timed it so that it would settle out right about when we got to the trailhead. So weather's okay, but we're soaked. All the river crossings are a little bit exciting. I think we have 1 or 2 more today, maybe 3, plus a bunch of little streams, and they're so crazy because of the storm and also the snow melt. It's still a little early in the season, so we knew that and we were prepared for wet feet. But this is an important hike in our training for the spring, for me getting back in shape, and for the dogs preparing for our big Memorial Day goal, which is now 2 weeks away. So we're out here. They say on the AT, no pain, no rain, no Maine. We're not shooting for Maine, but same discipline applies. So, good dogs to the summit. Okay, this is what I mean when I say the stream crossings are a little intense right now. So, the flow rate of this is definitely on the verge of unsafe. So I have unhooked my pack and I now check the depth with the dogs tied up. And then if I decide it's safe, I sling them to go across. And if I decide it's unsafe, we either decide to make camp or to bail and go back, because we're only like 2 miles from the car. So, all right, camera away. Okay, we just finished crossing 5 times. Still have Wiley here. So that's the dog swing. He's in. I didn't carry my phone, obviously, while doing the crossings. So he gets to hang for a minute to show how it works. Good dog. Did you enjoy that experience? Okay, so we're across. I was on the verge of turning around. I got, oh, are you free bird? I'm letting him run for just a second. He is a jailbreaker. He doesn't pay attention. He runs when he wants, so he can't stay off leash. But I was a quarter of the way across with Wolfie, and I turned back to abort the whole weekend. Because I wasn't quite sure, but I decided it was just on the edge of okay. Not for the inexperienced or the short. So we are across. I'm gonna pause this, see if I can flip it. So we are across and they are happy, and we get to camp out instead of driving 3 hours home. Okay. In trying to tell this story, this is the part I usually don't record. I just finished, well, we've all but finished the summit push. We're less than a 10th. But I have asthma that I just work around, and the ascents, sometimes I need air. So my patient babies, where are they? There they are. They know the drill. Mama's just getting air. Good boy. Good boy. We're gonna have no view today, but we're just going off the back of this summit and down a little bit to a shelter, and then we're coming out the same way. So we're gonna have a view tomorrow. So we're just gonna basically blow right over. The dogs need a little break, they need a snack. So quick break and then down to camp. Good boy. Yes. All right. We just hit the alpine zone. This mountain doesn't really have a true alpine zone. Like, you don't go above tree line. There's just a little bulb at the top because we're only at a little over 3,000 feet. We're south of the high whites. This is the peak just south of Mount Musalaki on the AT. So that's, Mount Musalaki is the first 4K'er. So this is kind of not a popular mountain, just like a local mountain. but we like it for training because it mimics all those difficult conditions, but with less overall risk, less planning. You can work through the weather rather than around the weather like today. And you get a little view at the top and you don't have crowds. So lots of good reasons to like Mount Cube. And we really love the alpine forests, the moss and the smell of the pines, mostly white pines, some stunted white pines called Grimholtz. And I think we're here. Oh, there's a summit sign. Honey, we'll go to the North Peak tomorrow when there's a view. We're just gonna keep going. One more little bump. Here we go. Woofy. Did you know Mount Cube is the first AT summit you ever climbed? Yeah. It was right after we got you. Just like 3 weeks after. We were right here in the snow. No view today. All right. Oh, what a nice climb. Woofda. All right, we are wet and a little bit draggled, but when you're in the Whites in New Hampshire, it's always good to see that sign. That sign telling you you can't camp within a quarter mile of the shelter and you're entering a forest protection zone. So there's additional rules about how and where you can wild camp. And it means, normally, I didn't stop and read that specific one, almost always, it means you're a quarter of a mile from the campsite, which are these official places where you can camp and there's a shelter and a privy and sometimes a bear box. I don't know if this one has a bear box, but we like to stay at the shelter sites because those amenities are there. It's easier to leave my itinerary with someone because I can say where I'm going to be staying, like without having to send a pin. It's a known, it's like a Googleable thing, what it is and where it is, in case something goes wrong. And it's better for the forest because if you wild camp, you are often camping on a virgin land spot. So if people start to make too many extra spots, it just creates, extra areas with human impact, as opposed to if you camp at a shelter site, that is like concentrating all of our impact in one spot and leaving the rest of the forest alone. So it's a little counterintuitive at first, but due to how many people like to camp, it's the best way to do it. We do wild camp sometimes if we need to. If we've read reports that there's issues at the shelter, like sometimes homeless people move in or people on drugs move in. Since we're solo, we don't want to be messing with that. So local trail reports are super helpful for knowing what's going on. But this is a backcountry shelter, meaning you have to go significant distance and over a peak and down the backside to get to it. So these ones are typically just hikers, weekenders, through hikers, and the like. So we'll see what it is when we get there. Sorry, this is long. All right. Okay, this is a departure from the ordinary because we don't always, we actually rarely stay in the shelters, but we're ahead of the AT bubble, the through hikers, and it's really wet. It's not actively raining, but the tent sites are really wet. And the shelter's cool because it's a hexagon. It's called Hexacuba Shelter. So even if several other folks come, there's lots of floor space. And I think at most there might be 1 or 2 more people. So we're setting up in the shelter. It's just that. And then I just leash the dogs overnight so they don't leave. And that's the whole setup. We don't even have to get the tent out. So what do you think, Wiley? Oh, the other reason we don't often stay in shelters is bugs, but it's early enough in the season and there was such a bad rainstorm until about noon that there's almost no bugs. So just our luck. All right, 7 a.m. day 2. We took it nice and slow at camp since we only have 5.5 miles out, but we are starting to climb back up the backside of Cube. This was pretty treacherous yesterday because it was super wet from the storm. Today it's just moist, damp. So much easier going. We're looking forward to stopping a bit longer at the summit today. Good dogs. Okay, this makes me so happy because I did this hike for the first time about 2 weeks after I got Wolfie back in 2022. And this climb that I'm halfway up, hence the breathing, was too tricky to do with 2 dogs on leash. So I just let her off. I'd had her like 2 weeks. I just let her off. I knew she was going to stay with me because I dropped her leash on local hikes, but it was the first time I just let them both off together. And now we're still doing it. We're going this way though. Come on, babes. So 3 years later, that time we were doing this as half of a longer hike. We went to the next shelter. So younger dogs, more ambition. But we love this part and we're glad they can still do it. My 10-year-old girl still got it. Okay, that's the summit. Woo, woo. We're almost there. Probably 3/10, maybe 5. I forget if there's switchbacks on this side, even though I just did it last night. 4/10. We got it. Good dogs. It's a little hard to see. We're looking south-ish, east and south in New Hampshire, so the big whites are all right behind us. Gonna head to the North Peak next. Right, girl? Right. All right. We are checking out Mount Cube's North Peak, a little bit off the AT. So I believe that would be Musawaki. Probably has to be, but it's obviously in a cloud, so I can't tell. Just geographically it has to be, I mean, because we're pretty close to that summit. We're like less than 15 miles, and I don't see what else could be it, unless I'm way turned around. So anyway, nobody cares about me. Hi, Wally. Where's a good boy? It is so nice to be up in the summit zone. Not true alpine zone here either, but just taking in the trees and the view, getting some dapples of sunshine. My dogs look epic. Good girl. Just no complaints. Selfie. Okay, this is the river I had to carry them across yesterday. It's much better today, so we're just fording the river, literally. We went a little up, we went right up there yesterday because we didn't want to be close to this rapids, because it was like if you fell, you were going to get swept under. And today we're just walking right on it. That's such good news! Today's easy peasy. Okay, gee, good dogs. So in case you couldn't hear me, that was the river I had to carry them across in slings yesterday, and the flow was much faster and the level was higher. So today we could just carefully all walk right across together. So way safer, way easier. Easy day. Good dogs. Okay, we are just about a mile from the car and we have gotten back down below leaf line. So earlier the videos, the trees were still bare because the elevation, it's not quite full spring up there. But down here, we got spring. Not Boston spring, but northern New Hampshire spring, central New Hampshire spring. We are enjoying the salty, sloppy, messy, wet trails here while he's filthy. So he'll have a project on the drive home, cleaning himself off for 3 hours. Got a couple happy dogs. I'm really glad we pushed through. We almost turned around yesterday at that brook and bailed. It would have driven back home the same night. But we pushed through, and going over that summit twice was really good training. Next weekend, we'll do a couple of day trips for training. And then Memorial Day weekend, we are going to do a traverse that we've done a little part of when we were doing the AT. But we're going to hit some new peaks that we haven't done before, if the weather cooperates. And we're going to have Auntie with us. So that would be like one of probably the dog's last grand traverse, meaning like multi-day, above tree line, difficult, point to point over a kind of range of peaks. Because by next, I don't have any more planned for this season. We could throw another one in this fall. We already have our plans all set. And by next spring, it'll probably just be a little too much for both of them. Wiley will be 9, Wolfie will be 11. Wiley has arthritis because of a bone deformity. Wolfie, we're doing physical therapy and chiropractor for her already to keep her at the fighting shape she's in now. But age is age. So we'll still be getting out. We just won't be doing grand traverses like that. So this weekend was really important to test where they're at, make sure they're on track for that, and it's all good news. Good dogs.